So how do you use this in your life then? So I decided at both the kinds of jobs I was working at, both white and blue collar, to just start referring to our victimizers as anti-white and their doctrine as anti-whiteism. And you know what I discovered? Rather than discovering that our people wouldn't listen, they wouldn't take us seriously, what I saw was people's eyes grow wide with understanding. Finally, they knew who our victimizers were. There was a name for it. It was a word that even though, or words that even though they weren't in the dictionary, they could be understood by the people. Listen to that, folks. It was a word that even though it was not in the dictionary, could be understood by our people. And what we did in that moment was we put the anti-whites in a box that they couldn't escape from. And so ever since, I've been sharing how to use it. And so we'll get back to what was said earlier. And then what? You say that's anti-white. Well, somebody asks you, are you racist? Your answer is, are you anti-white? They'll have to answer that question. If they are anti-white, the conversation is over. If they disclaim, you move on to the next subject. If somebody says you're a racist, and you say to them, you're anti-white, and watch them backpedal. If they are a vehement, pink-haired, sick anti-white that wants white erasure desperately, well, you walk away from them. There's nothing that can be done. But you are not walking away as the loser anymore. Now you walk away like I walk away, as the winner. You walk away as the person who defeated that anti-white piece of garbage. You put them in their box. You put an end to that discussion. You have labeled them like they have labeled you. And another thing here is I see somebody wrote here, you are racist, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that you're not anti-white. And never use the verbiage of anti-white persecution with me again. Hater, bigot, anti-Semite. That is all the verbiage of white oppression. All of that, all of those terms. And racist is the most powerful one. But you watch. Now, this doesn't mean at work that you're going to be prevented from being fired by using this method, or at school that you're going to be prevented from being expelled. But it will work more often than the other examples I gave earlier, than the other methods. I have proof of it. People have come to me. People who have been accused at work. Follow the logic. People who have been accused at work and at school for being a racist, who then say, this person is anti-white. The mediator, if this is a person who's not vehemently anti-white themselves, has two people fighting against each other that they then have to resolve. They don't have one person saying that the other is immoral and needs to be kicked out of the company, and the other person trying to say, I'm actually moral, please don't throw me out of the company. You have a landslide in that example. When you come back with their anti-white, you now create a dynamic that a mediator has to deal with. And yes, as long as the anti-whites have their control of the major institutions, we're going to continue to see the results that we have seen in previous years, where they're able to just take the pressure of the entity and put it on like a pinpoint on an individual and still get that same sort of response. But you don't walk away from it as a loser. You walk away from it with your head held high. And I encourage all of you moving forward. I want you all to use this. I want you all to use it online. I want you all to use it in the next conversations in person. You can use it passively. You can use it aggressively. You can use it to repel. You can use it to persuade. I have used it in all of these methods successfully. No magic. I want you all to use these methods. And then when we get back together, I want you all to tell me about the success you've had or the struggles you faced. And I want you to write in the thread under this video about the success you've had or the struggles you've faced relative to these conversations. If you're having a conversation with that sister-in-law that's just a little too anti-white for you, and she's saying something anti-white, instead of all of these other methods, you present maybe a position that she then says, isn't that racist? But isn't that really racist to say that? You just say in response, isn't your position really just anti-white? Now, I can figure this out and I can share it with you, but I can't understand it for you. So if it still makes no sense, then I'm going to tell you that this is like walking into a physics classroom where you see a whiteboard or a chalkboard and it's filled with mathematical equations that look like absolute gibberish to you. And yet you accept that by way of that gibberish, the rocket still makes it to space. The rocket still makes it to Venus and lands our probe in the orbit of that planet. You still accept these things. You don't push back and say, no, the rocket couldn't possibly go because of this bit here. I don't get any of it, but it couldn't possibly make it because of that bit. No, you just accept it. If you are having a hard time understanding how this will work, then I suggest to you, employ it. You don't have to understand how it will work. It will work. You say it with conviction. You say it with sincerity. And this is how we will win people to the cause. This is how we will persuade those who can be persuaded, repel those who need to be repelled. And it is how, even if you are fired from a job where you're called a racist or charged with racism, even if you're kicked out of a school, you'll do so as a man. You'll do so as a woman. You won't crawl away in the casket that they designed for you with the big blazing red R on the side of it. You'll be one of our heroes and you'll be an inspiration to the next person. Just as if there's anything I do that inspires you, you will inspire others. So I encourage you, if again, in the closing, if you're not sure how this will work, employ it anyhow. When they scream you're a racist, you scream you're anti-white. When they say you're guilty of racism, you say you're guilty of anti-whiteism. When they say that sounds like a racist opinion to me, you say yours sounds like an anti-white position to me. Anti-white, anti-whiteism, over and over and over. And we defeat this term that has kept us in this quicksand, in this casket. We defeat this weaponized term. And let's make that, finally, the slogan on which we march off.